Emulate the taste of like non-chicken nuggets. So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope.
Oh, that's much better.
Edit all the blather out of your videos because my time is very precious.
Oh, that's fire.
Make it less teal and more
cerulean? Sure.
Replace your background with something more fun? The cold void of outer space.
Let's boost that sound quality. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope.
It needs more style. It needs more clips, more gifs, more. Well, I might have made it too gnarly.
Hey, Marcelo.
Hey, Christiana, what's going on?
I'm chilling. Welcome to Descript 101.
Super stoked to be here. I hope everyone tuning in is ready to learn a little bit, get some 101 lessons and best practices in.
I know I sure am. I woke up ready to learn from my buddy Marcelo here. But before we jump in, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Christiana. It says that my name is Descript. But it's actually Christiana, and I'm the community manager here at Descript, and I'm joined by Marcelo, our wonderful customer support manager, support hero, general, all-around awesome person. Welcome to the stage, Marcelo.
Thank you for having me. I've done quite a few office hours, and I've been behind the scenes in some chat, but it's good to be in front of the camera. I did my makeup today and pulled my hair back, so I'm ready to go.
That's right. We're camera ready. And yeah, we've got a whole crew, people from all over the world in the chat, from Ohio to Zimbabwe, like New Jersey even. Peru.
Worldwide.
It's worldwide. And yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Feel free to keep telling us where you're tuning in from. I'm going to share some quick housekeeping before Marcelo dives in and starts teaching us stuff. And then we'll be off to it. Okay, let me pull my screen down here. Make it big for everybody. Cool. Okay, sweet. So this is what we are going to cover today. We will show you how to import and transcribe your media, whether that's audio or video. We'll talk to you about the recording capabilities of Descript, from the screen recorder to recording straight into a project. We'll talk about scenes, which is really like the core of how we do video editing here at Descript. Marcel will talk to us about the stock media library, which is our royalty-free treasure chest of all kinds of good stuff, B-roll, audio, whatever you want. We'll talk about the different modes of Descript. There's edit, write, and correct. We'll chat about that. And then, of course, lots of time will be spent on editing the script. So that's what the text you see, the timeline, and of course the canvas, the visual elements for video editing. We'll talk about templates, which is the easiest way to repurpose your stuff. And then of course, publishing and exporting, getting your stuff out of Descript. Cool. If you're watching in Crowdcast, our wonderful homie, Zach, is in the Ask a Question section, answering all of your questions that come up. Throw those in there. It's the question mark box, and he will get you squared away. And then use the chat for your reactions, your chatting, your commentary, telling us about, New Jersey or Zimbabwe, whatever you want. If we freeze, just refresh your browser. That normally does the trick. We're also streaming over on YouTube right now. So hello to our friends on YouTube. We see you too, and we see your chat. Throw your questions in there. But this session is recorded and it'll be on YouTube right after this, but we'll also send it out in follow-up email. So it's nice and handy for you. If you need more help, check out help.descript.com. That's also where you can figure out how to get in touch with our awesome support team, people like Marcelo and Zach, who will help make your Descript dreams come true. And then please join our Discord for community support. That's also where Marcelo hosts office hours every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. So helpful. There's a link at the bottom of the screen. Join the Descript Discord. Handy for you there. And then last but not least, we are going to be talking about pro features today. Marcelo is going to show us some pro level stuff. So if you're new or you're currently on the free plan, use code LIVE30 when you check out, and you can get a month of Descript Pro for free on us. And if you're scrambling to write LIVE30 down, I will also bring this up later. I will send a link in the chat, and we will send a link in the follow-up email. So don't worry if you don't have time to scramble right now. Okay, I think that is most of my housekeeping there. Let's see. Some other things. Closed captions are available for you if you want to toggle those on. Some folks were having trouble turning them off after. Just hit refresh, and that normally, or like exit and come back. You know, classic. Marcelo, you're a support person.
Yeah.
Did you try unplugging it? Vibes.
Turn it off, turn it back on, figure it out. You know, take out the Nintendo 60 cartridge out, blow on it, pump it back in. It'll work.
Exactly. Yes. Give that a try. But yeah, I think that's it. This event is going to be about an hour and a half long. If you have to jump, no worries. It's recorded. And we'll make sure you get the replay. Okay. Anything else you want to say before we jump in?
No, I think that about covers it. And like Christiana said, just keep an eye out for a follow-up message with the link to the recording on our YouTube channel. And again, that LIVE30 like coupon code.
Yep. Get your free Descript.
Get that pro access.
Yeah, that's right. Go pro or go home, baby. That's just right off. Just kidding. But most of you are probably already at home, so you can't go home. Anyway, cool. Noelle says, "Oh, I don't see the captions option today." Okay, I'll look into that for you. It definitely should be there. But if all else fails, there should be captions on YouTube after, but I'll look into that. Cool. Okay, Marcelo,
Perfect.
take us away.
Let's get right into it. Let me share
Cool.
my screen here. And everyone in the chat, just let me know if you can or cannot hear audio coming out of Descript, or if it is too quiet in comparison to my voice. I'll make sure I can adjust those behind the scenes. Thank you in advance. But here we have, drum roll, Descript. I'm going to resize this so it gets corner to corner.
Nice.
Perfect. So, as Christiana mentioned, we'll be going over a little bit of, like a Descript overall one-on-one. We're going to be looking first at our drive view and some application settings, as well as understanding like folder structure and just general organization stuff, as well as one or two other things that you can see on the drive view. So jumping right into it, right now, what everyone is looking at is my drive workspace. So you'll see here, I have Marcelo's Pro Drive Workspace. This is a shared space for everyone to, edit like projects together. So if I want to edit a project with Christiana and we're collaborating on a single project, that project can be stored here on the Drive workspace so that everyone that's a member of the Drive can access it. So if you're wanting everyone on the team to be able to just jump in and get right into editing, when you create a project, you want to do so in this Drive workspace, and you can click New Project here on the top right to get started. Whenever you have a project here, this is, again, accessible to everybody. So either editor members or basic members. And we can get into a little bit about membership types and what those have access to. But again, anybody, anywhere from a basic free member all the way up to the owner of the Drive can see all projects present here. Also, you have on the left-hand side here, you'll see private workspace. This is for my behind the scenes, not ready for public view, maybe rough draft kind of projects. Also, by default, this is all where all of your screen recordings go. So if you use the quick recorder, the little tool on the top right of your Mac or the bottom right of your Windows device, you'll be able to make screen recordings with Descript. And by default, everything should be dropped right in here. We even have a nifty little recordings folder. I want to give it a little icon at some point, but for now, it just has a cute, like, old school folder vibe. And one thing to note for everybody, you'll see in the Drive workspace, there's an ability to create new folders. So on the top right here, I have an option for new folder just to the left of new project. When we're looking at project organization and just Drive like cleanliness as a whole, just keep in mind that the full options to like create folders and subfolders and so on is only available at the Drive workspace and not the private workspace. Private workspace, similar to my room, gets more cluttered than, let's say, my kitchen, the shared space. So we want to be able to have like some organization options. Here in the Drive workspace and in the private workspace, it's all or nothing in there. So keep that in mind. Again, we'll by default drop your screen recordings into a nifty little recording folder, but everything else is on full display, like my closet on the floor right here.
There you go.
But yeah. So we have those options here. We'll also see on the left-hand side, just going from bottom to top, we also have options for templates. So here, if I click on templates, I'm able to view current templates that I have for this drive. I can also on the top right create new templates or edit existing templates. Templates can be personal to yourself or shared across your drive or even shared to other users. I've even seen some users in our For Hire channel on our Discord sharing out templates either by the goodness of their heart or for a favor. So, look at that. But this is where you would manipulate your templates, create new ones, and edit existing ones. A little bit further up here, we have voices. These are all of our overdub voices. You can see I have a couple versions of my own for various tests and various versions of our overdub training model. The 100th Marcelo is probably my favorite voice for sure. But here's where you can, again, same as templates, create new voices or edit existing ones. And again, you can choose to provide access to these overdub voices to any user or just yourself, members of your drive, whatever it might be. And on the right-hand side of this, you'll also see which ones that you own and which ones that you have access to. So if I'm a user, I didn't originally create the voice, someone's given me access. If I'm the owner, I own that voice. Really cool AI mock-ups of whatever, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then further up on the top left here, we have downloaded projects, projects shared with me, quick recordings. So again, like that screen recorder view, and recent projects. We have all those, as well as at the very top left, an option to select what drive you're in. I'm part of a couple of drives, but today we're looking at the Marcelo's Pro drive. But you can see
quite a
everything
few
from,
drives. You're
yeah,
popular.
Yeah, I have some friends in high places. I forgot who added me to the PDX drive. Was that you? That's my Portland PNW drive.
Yeah, there you go. You gotta have one. Love it. Cool.
We got a little bit. I forgot we had this team drive too with the cute little animated Giphy. Hell yeah.
It's good stuff.
Right. But that is like a general overview of the drive view. The one last thing that I'll mention as well is from this area, you can add new members to your drive. So if I click on here, I'm given the ability to send an invite link or enter a user's email address. They don't have to already be a Descript user for me to type in their email address here. So let's say Christiana has never ever opened Descript or created an account. I can still put in their email address here, send off that invite, and in Christiana's email, they'll get an option to create an account as well as accept the drive invite at the same time. And again, we have options to add someone as a basic member, which is the free version, or like a free member, and then an editor member, which is a paid account. Yeah, and I saw one of the questions on here, can you download a free account? Absolutely. You can totally download Descript and use it under the free plan. Or if you've been added to a drive, you can be added as a free or basic member. So keep that in mind. You can get started right away. Obviously, we were talking earlier about, looking at the pro version. So if you want full access to all of our features, there's that pro version. But if you want to get started and just kind of tinker a little bit with what seems cool or what feature might have caught your eye from a YouTube video or an ad, pop in, give it a try. And then if you're into it, use that Live 30 code.
Love it.
Right.
Cool.
Then up here on the top right, we have just a quick option to go to your settings, and then you can select your theme. We finally wonderfully have dark mode now. So if you're at dark mode, abracadabra, we're going full goth mode, or I can go back to light mode. Oh, cool. Drop in the chat. What do you like? Dark or light mode? You can also set your system. You can have it match your system settings. So that's an option too. But you can manually select from up here.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah. Did I miss anything? Is there anything on there?
Did you chat about the default project? Maybe we could just talk about your default settings of audio versus
absolutely.
Video. Cool.
Absolutely. So if we go to settings up here on the top right, I can see options for default project here at the very top. So again, I'm clicking on my user icon on the top right. My user icon is Kirby, the best Nintendo IP. And from here, you'll have this pop-out window of like all of your settings for your local device. So from here, I can select my default projects as either video or audio. Some people are using Descript strictly to do an audio-only podcast. Some are doing video, some are doing both. But from this area, when you select either video or audio, this is determining if you have an audio-only project or a video project when you select a new project from the drive view. So if I have video here, as soon as I click new project, I'm defaulting to a video-only project versus audio. This is also probably a good time for us to talk about like default, while we're on the default topic, default transcription language. So we have, I want to say, is it 23 languages that we can transcribe in? Type.
That's correct.
So we have a list of 23 languages that you can transcribe in, but for us here, we have like a default transcription language. So instead of me having to start a new project and always select, I'm transcribing in English, or, like my family's from Brazil, I'm sometimes transcribing in Portuguese. Instead of me having to like manually select that, I can just by default have my project assume that I'm going to be transcribing in English or whatever other language you select here. So these default settings are super useful for you to just plug and play, jump right in and get creating, rather than having to take 15 minutes to actually like set everything up and create something, yada, yada. But this stuff in tandem with like templates is a very easy way for you to just plug and play, jump right in. You have your media, drag and drop it. Something's automatically transcribing, something it's already on video, you can pop in a template, but these default settings are super useful. Always look through your settings.
Perfect. Cool.
Tight.
All right.
We have some advanced options down here. If anyone is curious about these advanced options, feel free to drop in the chat, but we have some pretty useful Help Center articles about all of this. I could probably talk for an hour and a half alone on offline storage location and how to, digital cleanliness, as I like to say. But yeah, check out our Help Center for some more in-depth options on that.
Totally. Cool. Love it. All right.
Perfect.
I think that was a perfect drive tour.
Yeah. Good. First try. There we go.
There you
now
go.
that we've looked over the drive, let's jump into actually creating a project. I have a couple of projects here already. So I have like a stock voices and a couple of interviews over here. But let's just, for example's sake, let's click create new project. So when I click new project and I set my default to video only earlier, so right away I'm seeing like a video panel here on the right hand side, and I'm seeing this wide open space for me to get started in creating. We have a couple options by default. So I can click choose file to transcribe, which will just open a prompt for me to select a specific file from my computer that I can bring in and automatically transcribe. I can start recording right away. So if I don't have a pre-recorded video, but I'm just ready to talk to the camera and get started, I can click start recording, and that will give me an option to record just audio or video, even my screen if I want to do a screen recording. So we have some options for that there. We also have start writing. So you can just freeform text write. You can have that be like placeholder text, or it can be something that you eventually convert to overdub. That way you can just type out whatever, you don't even have to record. Throw some words on there and use either your own or one of our stock voices. And then further down, we have start from a template. So again, when we're just talking about jumping right in and plug and play, starting from a template is an option as well for us here. But just as an example, I'm going to go ahead and record directly into this, just so we can see what it looks like when you record audio and video, and then get a transcription right afterwards. After that, we'll pop back out and look at another project that's been more fleshed out, but just so everyone can see getting started, it's super easy.
Perfect.
So I can hit record up here at the very top center of the app. You'll see 5 menu options. The second from the left, the little circle with another circle inside, is our record button. So once I click that, you'll see a little pop-out menu here, and I can select audio only, I can select camera, or I can select screen. It's going to give me an option to screen record in full, use my like FaceTime camera or my MacBook camera. You can also use like an external camera, but we don't do virtual cameras right now. So if anyone is like using like a virtual cam like OBS or something like that, might not have the highest success rate, but we have options for you to select whatever your other cameras are. But if I click record, I'm pumping right in. Here it's going to ask what I want my transcription language to be. In my settings earlier, I had the option selected to always ask before transcribing. So that's another feature that you can have. And then here we can also enable or disable that feature pretty easily. But if I just click record here, give me a quick 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Hi, welcome to today's episode of I am hosting a webinar. Thank you for attending. This is so great and wonderful. And it's probably going to take a second to record because I am streaming and also recording at the same time. Wonderful. Hey, look at
pretty
that.
quick.
It actually I has been acting so bad the past couple of days, and I was like, all right, cool. See how well this works right now.
You got it.
But as everyone can see, I'm recording right away. I have my video here. My text automatically shows. So we have a live transcription feature. So as you're recording, you can always have your transcription appearing as you're recording audio. But again, I have my script, I have my video, and then I want to look at my timeline as well. On the bottom left of the project, I can click Show Timeline, and this will bring up the traditional waveform for those of you that are like video editors coming from like a Premiere or a Final Cut background, or even people that are audio editors coming from like Pro Tools or Logic Pro. You'll be super familiar with this timeline and a waveformy kind of vibe. But luckily, Descript makes it super easy to just edit based off text, or you can view the timeline as well. You can even hide the timeline if you just want to go straight text editing. Super, super solid. But if you want to get a little more fine-tuned with edits, you can always open up the timeline and use our timeline tools here.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. And obviously right now, Marcelo jumped into a video, recorded video, but someone just asked in the chat, can you edit a podcast with this? Absolutely. So we've got audio was actually where we started off. So our first users were podcasters. So right now we just happen to be in a video project, but you can totally turn the camera off and just do audio as well. You could do that with this, right? Yeah. So
yeah, I'll show off really quickly just so we have an idea about it. But within a project, just to get to the project hierarchy, you have a project, and inside that project, you can have multiple compositions.
Mm-hmm.
The compositions are just partial stories from this grander picture that you're painting with the project. But in this example, I want to show how we can just record audio. So I'm going to record a new composition in the same project. I'm going to click that record button on the top center, and I can click audio only here. So instead of me adding a video, I can just do audio only. And this is like a podcaster vibe. So if you're interested in just doing audio, you can absolutely do that from clicking audio only, or setting your project default to audio instead of video projects. But super, super possible. And as Christiana said, our bread and butter is audio podcasters. That's what brought us up, and that's who we want to make sure feels still in the loop with all of these new video features.
Totally. And if you go back to that project you had originally, Marcelo, you could just turn that into an audio only composition as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that can be done really, really easily. The one thing that I'll say is if you are going to be, I wouldn't suggest jumping back and forth from having an audio and video project, just to make sure that you're not losing assets or things getting jumbled. And as someone mentioned in the chat, you can also just export audio. So I could be editing this full thing in video, but at the end of the day, if I just want the audio out of it, or if I want to export twice, one with audio, one with video, you can absolutely do that over here in your export options. We have options for video export, but also even if it contains video, I can just do an audio export and get an audio format here.
Sweet. Cool.
Super sick. We got options. Left and right.
Options. Yeah.
Tight. Did I miss anything?
Nope, you got it.
Sick nasty. All right. Let's take a look now as we've now seen hey, I've created a fresh project and I edited in. Cool. Let's look at a project that's had a little bit more history behind it, more of a full-scale interview. Here I have a good interview from our homies Marilyn and Petra. We have here a pretty finalized project. So I have in the timeline, I have multiple audio files. I have in my media library, I have multiple video sources. So in this is a Zoom call. We have two files, one video for one of the guests, and then one video for the host. So those are combined in down here in the timeline as a sequence. But here's like, again, like a more finished or finalized project. I want to look a hair into like speaker labels, just so everyone is familiar with speaker labels, as well as getting a little bit more in the nitty gritty of editing. But yeah, Christiana, what's your favorite
Yes.
color? Let's get your take on what these speaker label colors should be.
Green is my favorite color. So Maryland's
hit it.
good.
Let's
And
go.
then maybe for Petra, we can do a nice that like gold looking one, or
Yeah, this thing.
that's good stuff
Perfect.
right there.
So really quick for everyone that is not aware, speaker labels are a tool that we have to assign a section of text or like the text representation of audio to a specific person. So when you are editing, it's going to make this a lot easier because we just have a block of text, right? Let's say you just want to edit via text and you don't even want to see the timeline. When you want to leverage speaker labels is when you have multiple people speaking across an interview and you can clearly see, okay, cool. Like audio wise, I can hear this is Marilyn talking, but now in this actual script, I can see up here on the top left with our wonderful green color coding that Marilyn is speaking in this section. If I scroll down, now I see Petra speaking here, and then back to Marilyn, and so on. It makes it really, really easy to visualize where everybody's at, but also you might notice below in the timeline, the waveform color matches the color of the speaker label. So if you want even just a visual representation of who's speaking more or less or in this section, you can view the timeline and match, okay, cool, Marilyn is green. We're seeing this whole like first minute or so of Marilyn introducing and getting the podcast or interview started. So it's a really, really sick tool to like view, hey, who's speaking, and give that more like a fleshed out view. So I can say, okay, cool. I know 100% that Marilyn is doing this introduction in this section. And then Petra continues on later on answering questions, yada, yada. But it's a really cool like visualizer that I haven't gotten to experience with other tools. Some people, again, from like a video or audio editing background might be used to the concept of like multi-track or having a track per person. And while we have multi-track in the form of our sequence feature, it makes it a lot easier to visualize rather than just looking at like the top track is Marilyn, then the second track is Petra, the third track is whoever. Like this just gives us more quick access or like an easy visual indicator of who's speaking when.
Cool. Love it.
Hey. And then from just a really quick mention, from this menu, you can also add additional speakers. Whenever you bring files into Descript, we're going to automatically prompt you to tell us how many people are speaking and then name that speaker. So if I bring in an audio file, it's going to say, hey, I hear 3 people speaking at the same time. Can you tell me who's who? And it'll give you like a 15 to 30 second just like preview of a speaker. Right. And you can play back and say, oh, this is Marilyn. Oh, this is Christiana, whoever. But potentially we might miss something if someone isn't speaking a lot throughout the interview or someone's voice sounds similar to another person's. You can always go into here and manually add a speaker. So if I just type in here, Marcelo, boom, now I can use myself as like a speaker label across this, just in case Descript didn't pick it up automatically. It feels like magic, but is not always magic. So sometimes we might miss a speaker or a word in your transcription, but fear not, we got manual options for that.
There you go.
It's like,
cool.
Now that we've talked about speaker labels and we could actually label who is who and who's saying what, let's get a little bit more into the nitty gritty of like actually editing this podcast.
Cool.
So what do you think is a good place to start? Should we go right into filler word removal or manually adjusting specific words? What's your vibe?
Maybe you want to just like start off showing how the text editing works and like maybe deleting and striking through a couple things like that. And then we can jump into the magic menu.
Hell yeah. Great idea. Cool. So as Christiana mentioned, we have some options for editing text just freehand. So when you are editing in Descript, when you're editing words in this script area, you're editing also the related audio. So as you can see here, if I'm selecting this section of audio or this section of text, the audio in the timeline below is also being selected. These are one and the same. It's just different ways to visualize the same piece of media. So if I select just the word one, now in my timeline, just the word one or what we've referenced as that text in audio form is selected. But let's say that this word is wrong. I want to fix this. There's this, Marilyn didn't say 1, she said 2, whatever it may be. When I make this selection, you'll see a menu above up here, and this will give me a couple different options. We'll look first at correct. There's keyboard shortcuts for all of this that you can find in app or on our help center. But instead of keyboard shortcuts, let's just manually select here on correct. And now I have a menu open to manually adjust one word or whatever group of words I've selected. So now I can manually type 2. I click correct here. And now, easy as pie, or whatever is easy, we have switched from 1 to 2. And below here in the timeline, you'll see also the word bar has been updated. So now we have a corrected text. So again, whether it's one word, a group of words, a paragraph, whatever it may be, you can always do correction. Because again, even though this feels like magic, it's ones and zeros behind the screen. We got like 99% accuracy, but that 1% of the time, we'll need to change 1 to 2. But again, it's super easy just by selecting a word, clicking correct, and then typing in whatever in this new menu. You can also go up here on the top right or top left of the composition. So like just right above the composition name, you have the option for our editing modes. So you can click correct from here and then just freehand correct as you want. So some people might want to like do more in-depth editing or do like stylistic edits. I've seen a lot of people want to do like in all caps for their captions. It's super common on socials and stuff. So if you want to, just do a conversion like that, you can always freehand correct rather than just selecting a word or a sentence at a time. It's pretty tight.
Cool.
No lie. But yeah, that's editing like specific words or sections. Like following on that, we have some more options here. So you have your bolds, your like italics, but also we have ignore. So when you are using the ignore feature, you're not like deleting a word. We're just passing it up in playback. I'll give us an example here. So like right here, Marilyn starts this with, we're officially recording now. We're recording. My name is Marilyn Moser. Cool. So maybe that beginning part we don't need in like our final edit, right? But I want to see it visually there just so I can understand context. Like, how did this start off? Like, are we just jumping right in? Like, what's going on?
Right.
So instead of deleting that section, I can make a selection and then I can use ignore. By clicking this, I can still visually see what was in the recording. But now when I play back, it's going to skip over this section entirely. And I'll demonstrate that here. So if I select this, I click play.
My name is Marilyn Moser. I am the influencer.
Jumps right in instead of playing that section. So again, some people want to just straight up delete an area of text or audio, but we also have this option for ignore, which again just gives more context of like, hey, where were we at in this conversation? And we'll look at this a little bit more in practice with filler words, but sometimes ignore is a good option just for, again, like getting the full understanding of what the conversation was and then saying, oh, maybe after a second pass, maybe I do want to bring this back. When I delete this section, I can't see this at all. So if I make the selection and click delete on my keyboard, now that's gone. I might not want to, or I might not even know like what's there. So I might not know it might be good to bring back, right? I'll undo that real quick so you can see it. But again, that's a use case for ignore versus delete. So instead of just getting rid of it, I can now see contextually like what happened in this conversation. And the good news is that, again, even though I can see it, it's not included in playback. And when I export this, that's also not included. If I wanted to do like a transcript export or just see like a raw text file, I have an option to include these ignored words. But again, like by default, if you ignore something, it is synonymous with deleting, but it just still gives you that like visualization of what was said, what was in conversation.
Totally. Much easier to like bring it back if you so wish. But you still could bring it back even if you deleted something. And I'm sure we'll get into that with the timeline. But Marcelo, I feel like that's a perfect segue to filler word removal with the ignore versus delete.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a peek now at filler word removal. Up here in our magic menu, this cute little glitter icon, we have a couple different options. So we have shorten word gaps, remove filler words, and so on. But we're going to be looking first at removing filler words. So I use filler words a lot. I didn't really know, like I went to a public speaking class when I was a kid, but I was homeschooled. I didn't public speak like that at all. So I ended up not being super good at not using filler words. You might hear me say and like way too many times in this session, so my bad in advance. But luckily, Descript has an answer for that. We have this remove filler words feature. For just as a side note, what I'm showing here is part of our Pro plan. So we have filler word removal across our free, creator, and Pro plan. But here you'll see a large list of filler words. For our free and creator plan, you are removing ums and ahs. But with our Pro plan, you're unlocking all these other filler words. And what I think is most important is repeat words. We have a dude in our support team that says essentially every like 4 sentences. And this repeat words option absolutely recognizes that. So even though like essentially isn't a real filler word, it recognizes, hey, this person is saying this one word like a lot. What's going on? It's been really sick to see this work for, I did an interview with my little brother and he says literally every 6 words. And it caught that super fast and was like, okay, cool. Hey, maybe you don't need everything to be literally in this, in this podcast. Yeah, but also in the chat, what's your favorite filler word? I love that question. Mine is like, for sure.
Yeah.
But here I can select which filler words I want Descript to like grab or, parse for me. I can also deselect some. So I know myself, even though I say like the wrong way a lot, I also sometimes use it correctly. So I'll deselect this sometimes. And if I'm feeling relatively good about my, my speech for that day.
Totally.
But again, you can select or deselect any of these and then have Descript flag them for you as, hey, here's a filler word, here's not. Also, if you notice on the right-hand side, when I open filler word removal, I have a quick view of every filler word that was said across this entire composition with timestamps.
Handy dandy.
For sure. Maybe that's my filler word is for sure.
That might be.
Honestly, I think it might be for real. But yeah, so like when you click our magic menu up here on the top and you click filler removal, again, it's going to immediately parse your entire composition to the entire script track. And now again, here I have on the right hand side every filler word. The cool thing about filler word removal is I could just do like an all-in-one removal, or I can play back one at a time and hear in context, which we have a feature called Spot Audition, which lets us play back live specific sections of the script. So now, like, if I want to, I can just say, hey, screw it. I do not want any filler words. Delete everything. Cool. But maybe you're like, hey, Marcelo says like incorrectly and correctly sometimes. Let me like just kind of skim through these and see what's what. You can click these up and down arrows here, and this will play back filler words from front to bottom. So if I click this.
She's coming to us today from.
It's giving me.
And where she actually.
But the context around it. So this gives me a better idea of like, hey, was this used correctly, or do we need to just get rid of this? Again, we have a lot of filler words on here that people use incorrectly or correctly, like sort of, you know what I mean, you see, yada, yada, like this kind of stuff could be used accurately because we're not flagging like the context, we're just flagging literally the word, right? So if we see the word like, whether it's used correctly or incorrectly, we're not like, Descript is not going to say, that makes sense. We're just going to say, hey, I see a word present, I'm flagging it as a filler word. So when you are going through, this is a good opportunity for you to say, maybe this was in context, maybe this wasn't. But circling back to our ignore versus delete, this is a really, really great time to use the ignore feature. Let's say I have an hour-long podcast, and on average, I'm probably saying 1,000 filler words in an hour, like easy, like very easy. So I will just want, I don't want to play back through everything, right? Cool, I have the option to spot audition every single filler word, but I also need to get back to work and have a lunch break at some point. So I'm not going to listen to everything in a row. I can in bulk delete all filler words, or I can ignore them. The pro with ignoring them, again, is I can see in context what was said without having to actually hear it. And you'll notice I clicked apply to all, a little tool or a little toast popped up that said you removed X amount of filler words. But in our script, we can see here's the filler word, but it's crossed out the same as this section that we removed earlier. So this, it makes it for me, for my workflow, that makes it super, super easy to just pop in here, ignore all my filler words, and then as I'm editing throughout the podcast or throughout the composition, I can bring back things as needed rather than spot auditioning everything or deleting everything and not knowing what was said, thus like leading to me not knowing if I should bring something back. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean. That's one of our filler words. Look at me here, doing more filler words.
Sorry, I had muted myself, but I do know what you're saying. Cool.
Hype. Okay, cool. Did I miss anything with filler words? We got any cool filler word questions in the chat? What's up?
Let's see. Yeah, let me pull this one up. Let's see if I can bring it up on stage here. Cool. So with filler words, can you remove it both from the video's audio and transcript? Do you have to manually delete them once they're flagged?
Type.
Well, the second part of that question is definitely not. We'll do that for you. But do you want to explain how it works with audio versus video versus transcript?
Yeah. So when you're ignoring, like I was saying earlier, like the script is tied 1-for-1 to your audio, video, or both, right? So when we're editing the script, this is just a nice visualization of your media file. So if I'm ignoring, the same as deleting, if I'm ignoring something or deleting something in my script, it is also manipulating at the same time the audio or video that's attached to the script. So with that, yeah, you can remove filler words, but it's also going to remove that section of time in the audio and in the video. So one thing to keep in mind for people is if you are using the like remove filler word feature, or if you're just editing in general, it's gonna cut your video as well as your audio, and that might lead to potentially some like jumpy edits. So one thing to keep in mind is like if I'm gonna remove all my filler words, we might have an option to, or like we might have the view on our video be a little bit jumpy because we're removing a section of that. So if I'm over here and then I jump to over here and there was a filler word in between, just keep in mind that like it might look jumpy depending on how animated you or your guest may be. But again, when you are removing or editing anything in the script, that applies to the video/audio that it is related to.
Perfect.
Good question.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
All right. I think we can keep chugging along here.
Right. One thing I also wanted to mention really quick, we can go back to this like magic menu thing in a sec, but one other thing that I think is kind of important that showed up when we're making selections of sentences or just any like text, over here you can highlight sections. So if you find something that's like a really good standout, or like if I have an hour-long podcast, but I want to, take this one paragraph and say, this would be a really great TikTok and everyone will love me and it will go viral. You can absolutely like make a selection of an area and then highlight this. So now I can see just visually this, I don't know what they're saying, but I'm scrolling through and I see that this is highlighted. Maybe my editor left me some highlights of like, these might be good, bumpers for an intro or an outro or like a teaser for this episode. That's something that you can do as well when you select any area of text. A good thing that you can do with that as well is you can copy highlights. So if we're going back to this magic menu, now I can select specific colored highlights or all highlights, and then I'll copy that to my clipboard. So if I'm in this example, if Christiana, you're the editor and I'm like the last touch on a review before something gets published, you can make a bunch of selections and say like, hey, this section is cool, and I think it should be salmon colored. And this section is also cool. And this is related to the other section above. So we can make that sand colored, whatever. I can now go in as like that final editor and find really quickly and easily, just copy every highlight to my clipboard and then paste this in a new composition, giving me all those highlights or giving me all those like highlighted sections of text that are potentially like these cool moments that I can make pretty for, again, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, whatever people are into. I'm like really a huge advocate for everyone using Descript as like a repurposed content for socials thing. So I'm going to use these examples a lot of like posting to TikTok or whatever, because that's like what I do genuinely. And it's also like the platform I could like consume most of my content. So pardon me if y'all are not on TikTok, but like conceptually, if you want to grab it and go to Podbean or whatever one of our published partners is, you can always do that as well.
Exactly. Cool.
And let's learn. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to talk about how like the copying highlights is so handy. And something else I like to do is duplicating to a new composition. which is kind of connected to the same thing. I don't know if you want to show that really quick, but it's so handy.
Absolutely. Let's take a peek at that really quick. So let's say right here, when Petra is starting to get into like the nitty gritty in this conversation, and like we want to see like here she says, as a musician, very social person, I didn't know, yada yada. Like this section looks really cool to me. Like I think this would be really great for our podcast. Similar to the highlighting, like Christiana mentioned, I can select this range of text, and then from this cool little pop-out menu, there's an ellipsis or ellipses, whatever, on the right-hand side that I can click, and then there is a duplicate to feature. What duplicate to does, instead of saving something to your clipboard, like copying highlights, I can just make the selection, and instead of having something stuck on my clipboard, I can go right into a new composition with this selection. So again, I'm selecting this range of text, I'm clicking the ellipsis on the right-hand side, I'm clicking duplicate to, and then I'm clicking new composition. And this will give me a little prompt that says, hey, we've added this to a new composition. The cool thing with this is like, this isn't automatically jumping me to the new composition. So I can just make these selects and just throw them at another composition without like interrupting my flow in this. But if I now want to see those, I can click this open button that appeared on the right-hand side. And now I'm thrown into this new composition that was created that just has that section of text that I selected.
Love it.
Yeah, makes it super easy to repurpose stuff. So like now I can just very easily, like if I have a template, I go to my template library. I go ignore my custom templates about Mario. I can go here. I have so many. I have so many video game themed stuff. I collect Nintendo games. I have too much. Every webinar or like every office hours we do, I think I show like how to make a template workflow, and every time it ends up me like having like a stock image of Mario, being like, I love pizza or whatever.
That's awesome.
But okay, so like here I have these stock templates, right? So just as an a quick side note, when you have templates, you can have custom templates or these templates that we provide everyone, so gallery templates. But here, like this is a great example of like, cool, this is, the aspect ratio of these templates are all, someone said woohoo in the chat, Mario, nice.
Woohoo, Mario.
But yeah, so like this is like, TikTok or vertical phone shaped orientation. So I can click this. I'm applying this template, and now like super easily it's going to look goofy because it's not the original content's not for sure meant for this, but now this is like in a format that I can take and fine tune and then post to a social. So really cool, like a quick workflow use case. You can see like, hey, I have this existing video in widescreen. Oh, cool. I can duplicate to, I can apply a template, and now I've repurposed this for socials.
In like 30 seconds. Like once you get that workflow down, it makes it really easy to like promote your work or share something like a clip with a colleague, whether your use case is personal or work. It's super handy. Cool.
We have an entire Help Center article in our how-to section that's tied, I think literally titled Repurposing Content for Socials or Repurposing Media for Socials. Everybody please go check out that article. That is like, that is in no exaggeration is my favorite Help Center article that we have, because it is the most real use case that I've seen for like, especially for people, like I know we were saying earlier that we have audio only versions, but podcasting and media creation as a whole has taken this huge video shift. Whereas like, you couldn't say the same 5 years ago. So now having these options to like quickly repurpose a long form interview that's just a head and a camera, right? Like we now can recontextualize this. We can give it some of our stock media. We can do anything to make it now that I can like post on a social. So that, again, everyone check out that article. I think Zach just threw that in the chat. But that's one of the best articles we have. Our lovely homie, Daniel Vitale, put that together, and it's a good workflow and like a real life use case.
It's fire. Cool.
Tight. Cool. Now that we've like talked a little bit about editing and some like more basic features and like just how-tos on gathering content, I think it might be a good time to look at like scenes for our video specific users.
Let's do it.
For audio homies, this will not apply because scenes are a video specific feature. But I just want to talk for a quick sec about scenes, because that's something that we introduced when we shifted from the classic version of Descript to Storyboard.
Yes. Which, if you're new to Descript, it's just also Descript. Storyboard is like what the version is, but it's so don't worry, you're not like missing out on anything. It's just the normal Descript now, like a big upgrade, if you will.
If you don't know what classic is, pretend I didn't say it.
Yes, don't worry about it.
But scenes, I think I forget who said it, but it's described best like scenes are like slides in a presentation. And they like split up like views of your composition. So if I have like a dramatic shift in visuals, let's say again, like in this example, right, I have Petra and Marilyn side by side, but we're getting to a point where, you know, Marilyn is asking a question and then Petra's answering in like a minute to 2 minute section. I would want to maybe use a scene to change the camera or just focus on one person. But like a larger visual change is what you would use scenes for. So we have other features like markers that can create like chapters, but scenes are very much like a visual focused feature that allow you to make larger brush strokes of editing like from one section to another. So again, like in this example, I would want to focus on one person speaking instead of the group of two in this intro portion.
Cool.
The cool thing about scenes too is we make it super easy to visualize. So scenes in the script are notated by this / here. But on the left-hand side, we, similar to like this slide or like a PowerPoint-y kind of style thing, we give you like thumbnails of each of the sections. So you can quickly like jump from scene to scene, but also get a quick visual view of like, hey, oh yeah, this is where I put the giant graphic of like confetti because someone said something nice or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I'll add a couple scenes really quick just so we can see that. So I'll make scene breaks. I'll make a scene break right here where Petra starts answering this a little bit more long form. So I can create a scene by either clicking the / on my keyboard or by clicking this / that appears here that has add scene when I hover above it. And as soon as I clicked that, you'll notice on the left-hand side, a second thumbnail appeared or like a second slide appeared. And now when I click that, it's jumping my playhead right to the beginning of that scene. So I can jump from the start to the second scene. And now I can start making visual changes that are like super different from the first one. So here I could resize. And here I can right click and move Marilyn to the back. This kind of thing.
Cool.
Let's move you to the front actually. Boop. Tight. And again, you'll see like when I'm clicking around, I'm just doing everything super manually. I'm coming from an audio engineer background and like I'm very used to keyboard shortcuts. So I'm just like physically holding myself back from clicking them. But everyone in the chat, you'll see on here, there's keyboard shortcuts to almost everything in here. And whenever I'm clicking these options in our menus, you'll see on the right-hand side in like a grayed out kind of thing, the option for the keyboard shortcut. Just everyone note, I'm on a Mac. My Windows homies, what's good? Good UI or good UX, whatever. But your keyboard shortcuts will look slightly different. But keep that in mind. And then we have a Help Center article on all keyboard shortcuts. So if you want like a list of all keyboard shortcuts, you can get it from our Help Center, or you can see it in app too. Just like a quick side note. If you click up here on the top right, on this little question mark, you click keyboard shortcuts, you get a pop-out menu like in your project with all the keyboard shortcuts that you can search for, which is sick. We used to not have this search feature, so people would just be scrolling through here like, where do I zoom in? And now we have like an easy search option. So very, very like user-friendly ways to, get to that keyboard shortcut or like understand like how can I make this workflow faster. We've been talking a lot about like how I can just get right in. A huge thing for any video editor, any audio editor, or specifically Descript is once you have your keyboard shortcuts down or like any macros or defaults, templates, that stuff is just going to enable you to get through a project and editing faster. So I would encourage everyone to at least take a peek. I know all the keyboard shortcuts in my nightmares for these timeline tools. So like that's yeah. I'm in my head. I'm always all right. B for blade.
I love that.
But yeah, just keep in mind, everybody, it's going to enable you to work faster. Again, you don't have to use keyboard shortcuts, and I'm not here just so everyone can see where these menu options are. But for those of you that are like, how do I get through my project lickety split? You can always check out these keyboard shortcuts. Side note, but yeah,
love it. Cool. And I feel like I don't even know if we mentioned this, but the place where all the visuals are, that's called the canvas. Like that's your that's what we're editing right now. When you're in a video project and it's like the actual visuals, that's your canvas with all the layers that are basically like papers stacked on top of each other, and you can move them around to tell different types of stories. And yeah, it's pretty. We've gotten a lot new features. I don't know about you, Marcelo, but I feel like it's gotten a lot easier to like manipulate the canvas and to showing like an even cooler picture. So yeah, I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, there's people that are coming from like video editing backgrounds, maybe super used to like, just like I was saying earlier, manipulating things here in the timeline, and like clicking and dragging things. Like in most other video editors, the track layout, so like the first track is usually like the top layer visually in your canvas. And people get very used to editing in the timeline and moving things around. Like you're saying though, we've added so many features for you to just never have to, like, you don't have to look at the timeline. It's sometimes it's super daunting for people. And like before, when I was editing podcasts in like a GarageBand style editor or an Audacity, right? Like just staring at these waveforms will give you a migraine at some point in your life, right? So if you just want to like avoid the super in-depth manipulation that you need in a timeline editor, you can always just hide this timeline and work strictly off the script. And now that we have these new features, the canvas too, it's really sick. Like I don't see any other editors like this, and it just makes me super stoked to like get to work on this stuff all the time. But yeah,
cool.
I could nerd on that for a sec.
I bet we've got some nerds in the chat. We have to. If you make stuff, you got to be at least a little bit nerdy. And I mean that with like the biggest compliment. We're all nerds here. Like it means we're like obsessed with something enough to like commit time to it and like create around it. And yeah, I think it's awesome.
That's like one of my favorite parts about working here is every single person that we have like at Descript is some variation of dork, and I'm super into it.
100%. We're a nerdy company.
As I like stare at my Kirby and Pikachu toys on my desk, I'm like, yeah, we're all dorks.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I've got like a Lego on the top of my shelf. You can't see it right now, but like, yeah, we all got our stuff. Cool. Okay. Tangent over. Okay. Let's keep trucking.
Yeah. Cool. So my bad. So if I get started talking,
you're good.
Stop it. I won't be able to stop myself. Cool. So we've talked here about scenes and like at a high level what they're used for. Also like how to view them and how to add them, right? So now I have these like big visual switch ups, so I can go from scene 1 to scene 2 and see like, cool, here's Petra zoomed in, here's Marilyn and Petra together, and could add more scenes. In terms of like things that are in my scene, I want to talk just briefly about the property panel on the right hand side, so we can kind of like get another visual indicator of like what's actually contained in our scene at a more in-depth level than just like what I can see, right? Because we have these layers, there might be something hidden behind and I might not see it there. And if I don't have the timeline open, like how would I know what is accessible to me in this scene? With that, on the right hand side of our screen, we have our wonderful properties panel. Woo, it's great information. But here I can see layers. So like in this scene, right, I can see layer 1, or the top layer, is Petra. Layer 2 is Marilyn, who's hidden behind, and layer 3 is script. So now this is just giving me another like visualization of, hey, what's really here? Like, what do I have access to? What can I move around? And from here, I can either click to hide or lock layers. So you would want to lock a layer for like something that's like a background that's present across your whole thing. Think like a company logo, or like your like the podcast name, or even like those little, call to action social icons that you'll see on some videos.
Yeah.
Or you can hide a layer, right? So like here, Marilyn's not gonna be present in this part, so I'm just gonna, click this little eyeball icon and hide her, and then I'll have Petra present. So even if I click something wrong, like I'm not accidentally going to display Marilyn in the section where Petra's talking.
Right. Cool.
And then in this area as well, like in our properties panel is where you're going to be able to manipulate anything. The properties panel will show you different things for what you're selecting. Because I selected a scene here, you'll see scene at the top, and then it'll give me options to add or like affect different parameters, right? So I can like have a background or turn off a background. I can add effects like pixelate or zooming or blurring, color adjustment, whatever. And I can also, most importantly, add a transition. So some people want to fade in and out of scenes, right? Since this is like a big visual change, like I might want to be going from like me and just my face camera talking, and then maybe I want to do like a crossfade over to me looking at my like a screen share and my face, right? So I just want like a smooth transition. But this transition in and out will allow you to affect either end of your scene. So if I'm selecting in, this will fade. I could fade into my scene. If I click out, I'm fading out of my scene. Super solid. I like the star wipe the most. It's cute. It just looks like Napoleon Dynamite-esque transition, but yeah, it's cute.
I love it.
Type.
Cool.
And then I saw someone in the chat asking, can you explain the layers in more detail? Yeah, so like layers are just what elements you have in your media, right? So my layers, if I were to add again like a company logo here on the top, that would be a layer. If I were to add like, you know, any other imagery, those are all layers in my canvas. So it's the individual like visualization of your media. But again, I can see it here in my canvas, or I can see the like text depiction of that on the left or right hand side in the properties panel.
Super cool. And something I love is you can name your layers now.
Yeah.
So you can just put like circle, then like yellow circle. Like if you're designing a bunch of stuff, it can get so confusing. So that's super handy.
That helps my caveman drummer brain. I need like one word. Like
Same.
Me hit thing hard. Give yellow circle.
Exactly. Person talking.
Human 1, human 2, speak more.
Exactly. There you go.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Cool.
So that gives like a pretty solid overview of like scenes, canvas. Christiana, did I miss anything before we maybe look at timeline editing?
No, I think you hit it.
Hell yeah.
Let's see here. Did we cover the script toolbar? Yeah, we did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we're in a good spot here. I think we should jump on. Dude. Yeah, let's do it. And maybe for the timeline bit, we could look at like an audio only project just so they can see what it would look like.
Hell yeah.
Just to switch it up for our audio folks here.
Bringing that hall back in. Okay, I'm going to jump to this thing I recorded earlier.
Cool.
And we're going to, this was the audio one? Oh, I didn't leave any out. Okay, I'm just going to record again because you can do that with Descript. Wow.
Yeah.
So here's my little countdown. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Marcelo Says More Things About Nintendo and his love for Pokemon at work and is not fired yet. Thanks. Bye. Cool. So here we're going to do a little bit of timeline editing with this audio piece. But as Christiana mentioned, we don't want any of our audio long-term homies to feel like they are left in the dust. So I'm just going to be showing off some audio specific stuff. The timeline editing tools will be for both video and audio, but we're just going to look at this audio only option just for context, right? It takes away some of the complexity that could come in with like video layers and canvas, yada, yada. So we'll keep it basic for just this section. First thing I'm going to do is name my composition. So audio, me, LOL caveman, whatever. And then I'll add my speaker label. So like I mentioned earlier, I can manually add a speaker label. We're seeing full circle, all of these tools that we did. See guys, it comes full circle. But here I have my speaker label selected. I have everything here. And now I can actually get into the nitty gritty of editing in the timeline. So like I mentioned earlier, we have some timeline tools on the right-hand side of the timeline. And again, if anyone is not seeing your timeline, just make sure that you don't have the timeline hidden. So clicking the show timeline button on the bottom left here is how you can bring that up. And then once that is visible on the right-hand side of the timeline, we'll see all of our timeline tools. So the one that everyone has by default, like whenever you open Descript or whenever you're looking at a timeline, by default, you're on the select tool. The select tool is like any select tool in any editor, or even like a selection tool in like a text-based editor, right? I can select this clip or like I can select anything in here, right? I can select this section of a clip. I can select the whole clip, but by default, again, you're on the select tool. And when you select anything, it shows up here on the properties panel on the right-hand side. So if you want to get more information on something, you can open the timeline, use the select tool, and select just one clip or like a range of clips and get more info on that. Also, you can use the blade tool. This is my favorite tool. Throw in the chat if you recognize this icon. This is a cool Easter egg. For all my nerds out there. But yeah, so here I can use the blade tool to cut sections of audio. So let's say like I want to make a cut here and here, right? This is just dead air in my audio. So I can use the blade tool to cut either end of dead air or a range of audio or a range of text. And then I can do something basic like clicking delete. Or I can say like, oh, maybe this would make more sense at the end of this audio section. I can click and drag things around, but once I've bladed something, I'm separating that, like I'm cutting something so that it can be manipulated and not touch the rest of the audio that it came from originally.
Yes.
We also have the range tool. Instead of like cutting, like if your intention is just to delete something, or again, like drag and drop it, like I was just doing with the blade tool, and you don't want to have to like manually click on either end of something, you can always use the range tool, and I can select a range of audio. And now, same as the blade tool, I can click delete, I can move this around, whatever I want, but the range tool allows me to, in the timeline, select a section of audio, and that it could be 1 clip, 2 clips, whatever, but I'm selecting this range, and now I can manipulate just that range. And just to circle back from what I was saying earlier about like the script editor, like if I make a selection here in the text, this is the equivalent of what the range tool is doing, but in the timeline. So we're seeing these same tools, but in a different visualization across Descript. It's super, super useful to be like, okay, cool. If I make this section or selection, the equivalent action in the timeline is the range tool. So you'll see some of these like, oh, I did this slightly differently in the script. Cool, I can also do it in the timeline. You have like that flexibility there.
Cool.
Okay. And then last two real quick, we have the slip tool. This is a common feature in video editors, but the slip tool allows me to kind of shift without moving where the clip is. It allows me to like shift throughout that clip. So like here, right, I have the tail end of an 11-second piece of audio, but I want to hear the first 5 seconds and not the last 7, right? I can use the slip tool to just click and drag, and without like changing how long this clip is in place, I can bring back audio or like shift what is or is not in that clip. It's a pretty specific use case, but it's a really useful tool for most video editors or people that are like working with like a long audio clip that, you know, is shortened by your visual, like your video. So a song, like an intro song for your podcast is 3 minutes, right? But your intro for the actual podcast is like 30 seconds. With the slip tool, I can kind of like shift around and like select what section of the song I want in my intro. That's like just a use case that I see pretty often. But yeah. And then last, and I don't know if least or not, we have the hand tool. This is a glorified scroll bar. The hand tool is really cute. It does not grab anything, even though it is a hand. It is just super, super sick. But instead of I got a trackpad here instead of a mouse. Instead of me having to like scroll back and forth, I can use the hand tool and just click and drag around. So that makes it easy for me to scroll through things without having to click this scroll bar on the bottom or use whatever tool I have with my mouse.
Love it.
But that about does it for our timeline tools. Anything else that I might have missed?
No, I think you got it.
Tight.
Yeah, we're good.
Tight. So I think that about does it for timelines. I just want to talk really, really quickly about like our stock media library and some other visual things that like we were saying before with like using the canvas. There are things that you can pull into the canvas after you've made these edits and done your timeline editing. Maybe you want like to add some additional like flavor text or like additional visual layers. Our stock media library and like our media libraries in general are super solid for this. For those of you that are familiar with like DALL-E, like text to image generation, we also have that built into the app, which is super, super sick. One last thing to note on that though is, again, similar to the filler words, there are limitations for the free and the creator plan, and there's a true unlimited access to stock media with the pro plan. So I think it's like, I want to say is it the first 10 or 15 things that show up that you have access to for the creator plan, I believe, right?
I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah.
Tight. But yeah, so like if
correct us.
Tight, Zach, please. But yeah, so like here, this media library is like, here's all my files, right? So here's what I've recorded directly into Descript or imported. But if I want some stock media or some stock images, I can click up here and get videos, GIFs, images, or audio. And then again, for people that want to do like the text to image generation, if you go to images and click text to image, we'll do whatever. So we can do like what? Mario playing drums, which in content is sick. Let's see if that actually generates anything. But yeah, so like, again, we have our stock media library that you can pull a lot of stuff from. As everyone saw, like as soon as I click video, there's just a list of everything. And then I can search, wow, that's cursed.
Whoa.
This last one is sick. I'm saving this for sure. Wild. Oh, that's so sick. Okay, sorry. But whenever you click any of these stock things, we have like stock videos, again, stock backgrounds, and then I can search for something specific. The stock video, if you click on that right away, it's gonna just show you like the ones that are most commonly used across all users. But if I want to get something more specific, like someone hiking, right, I can get that rather than just like whatever is thrown at me. So if I want to get something specific, I can always type that in. Same with GIFs or GIFs. Sound off in the chat if whatever side of that debate you're on.
Right.
And then yeah, and then same with audio. We have like a sound effects versus a music section in audio, but the like stock media library is an extremely useful, but I believe slightly underutilized tool. So everyone in here for sure try to use a lot of stock media. Why go on Google for 45 minutes or try to use the illegal download YouTube videos so I can use this in my Descript video vibe when we have most of that in here. But again, keep in mind that, and Zach just shared an article on it in the chat, but keep in mind that there are limitations for like, depending on your plan. So it's, I want to say it's like the free plan is like 5, the creator plan's 15. Don't quote me on these, but it's all outlined in that Help Center article. Yeah. But everyone check out the Help Center article. And then the pro plan, again, gives you unrestricted access to everything and anything. Pretty hype.
I'm going to send plan info into the chat right now, /pricing.
Yeah. The link that Christiana and Zach both shared in the chat is to our pricing page. If you want like a full comprehensive list of everything that is included in the creator or the pro plan, that the descript.com/pricing is the ultimate resource for like what is and is not included, or like this feature doesn't exist for the creator plan, but it does for pro, or this feature is like slightly limited on creator, but it's unlocked for pro. Think like our overdub, our studio sound, or our stock media like features. Those all have slight limitations when it comes to like what plan types you're on. If that makes sense. Exactly.
Yes. And I know we've got about 15 minutes left. So before folks start having to head out, just a reminder, we got a promo code for you to try the pro plan for a month. I'm going to send that code and a link that will like drop you out to the checkout with it in the chat right now.
Tight. How do you feel about these last 15 minutes just being focused on publishing and exporting, like getting the project out once we're done editing?
Let's do it.
Hell yeah, that sounds like a good way to bottle cap this bad boy. Okay, so let's open up our Petra and Marilyn combo one more time. Cool, so I've ignored all my filler words. I've highlighted stuff. I have scenes. My project is perfect and it looks beautiful and everyone is going to love this and I'm going to go viral and make $1 million. Sick. But to do that, I got to publish it first. So when we are publishing something or exporting, we're going to click publish on the top right here. And this is going to open a menu that allows me to either publish a web link or export to a file locally on my computer. So when you're publishing, you can choose to create a Descript hosted web page. It'll be share.descript.com/some string of letters and numbers that will be your link. So I can like post this either to a Descript hosted page, or if I have a new YouTube channel that I would like to get viral on, I can publish right to YouTube, Buzzsprout, web like eWebinar, Headliner, blah blah blah. So these are all options that I have to publish content. Instead of like exporting and downloading a file locally to my computer, I can skip taking up any hard drive space entirely and just go straight to the platform that I want to publish this on.
Right.
One really quick thing to note though is that you'll see a couple of these options grayed out. Some of our publishing partners are audio only, and this project or this composition is a video project. So if I have video, I'm not going to have the ability to publish to, let's say, Transistor, Captivate, or Castos, because those are audio only platforms. The same would go inverse. So if I had audio only, like it's not going to give me an option to go to video ask if I don't have video. So keep that in mind if you see things grayed out. And we also have like a little tooltip here. So if you hover above that, then you can see, oh, cool, this has to be audio only for me to publish. Sick, switch it up or go to another composition that is audio only. And then super quick to note as well, if you are publishing to a Descript hosted web page, you have the ability to manipulate who does and does not have access to this. So if I click this access button, I'll see 3 options here. I'll see project access is required, which means I would have to invite somebody to the project or have this be something that's on my drive, like on my shared drive workspace. So like we were talking about at the very beginning of this, if something is in the shared or like the drive workspace, everyone can access it. So project access is set. We can also have it set to anyone with the link can access, pretty self-explanatory there. And then the last one is indexed by search engines, which is cool. So I could select this, and it is possible that someone could stumble upon this, right? Like if I want this video to be public, someone could Google and, hey, I found this sick interview between Marilyn and Petra that Marcelo made. I had no idea that I would find this, but here it is. And then we have some additional settings down here about like custom branding, again, as a pro feature, show author, allow comments. So like if I'm doing like I'm publishing something to share internally. So like, let's say Christiana is my boss and I am an editor and I need to get like the final thumbs up before I actually export this or send this off to whoever. I can publish this, but I can allow comments. So this would give the Christiana the ability to like say, hey, this section is dumb, delete it, or like, hey, you didn't like give enough like screen time for someone when they were talking about this subject that's going to be important in context. Sure. So the commenting, 1, can be done in the project, but 2, if you want it like on just a publish page, again, like my boss is not an editor. So I don't send them the link to get in the Descript app because they're not going to know what to do. But if I send them a share page, it's like watching a YouTube video. They can select a range of like text and then comment based on that. I get a notification about it, and then that gives me something to action on.
Exactly.
Pretty hype. Cool. That is publishing. Let's quickly talk about exports in our last 10 minutes here. So we talked briefly about like video and audio exports. So giving the option to export video or audio, no matter what type of composition you have. Here we can see a little prompt to get you to try to publish, because publishing is 10 times faster than exporting. So if you're trying to just get it out into the world, we do give you a little prompt to maybe publish rather than export, because if you publish, it can be shared. If you export, it's on your computer to share it manually. So keep that in mind. Cool. But here I can export current composition, a scene, so I can export a specific scene. I see options for like selection. So if I select like this range of text, now I can go to export and it'll give me an option to export my current selection as well. I can export line breaks or all compositions. The exporting all compositions is a pro feature. So if I have a big project that's like 6 compositions and I'm done editing everything, and like each composition is for a different social media website, whatever, I can click all compositions, and this gives me local files for every iteration of that media in my project. It's a really, really powerful feature, and again, is a pro feature. But yeah, moving on down here, we have resolution. You can export to the max resolution that your project is set to, or composition, and then some other info down here about audio and metadata. But moving along, we got audio exports. So if I just want to have just straight up sound, I can do that here. Again, I'm selecting my format, and the options for current selection, scene, composition, yada, yada, are all here as well. Then moving on, we have GIF or GIF, again, whatever you're into. But you have options for current selection as well. And then sizing. Here, these last 3 are the more important ones, are the ones to get like a little bit more like focus time. So we have an export called timeline, or like a timeline export. So for people that Descript is not their end all be all, and you're not start to finish editing something in Descript, but Descript is one piece in your workflow, you can use the timeline export to go to another like pro editing app. So we have options for people to go to Premiere, to Final Cut, Audition, Pro Tools. We added Samplitude and Reaper recently. DaVinci Resolve also is in beta. But like if Descript is one part of your workflow and you are using these other tools, we give you the ability via timeline export to get a file that is specifically for those applications. And then you can very, very easily just one-click import. So like, for example, I use Logic Pro very much so in my personal work. And I use this export quite a bit. It's really sick because you just click one button, you click export, and then it generates a file format where when I try to open on my computer, by default, it's jumping right into Logic. It's giving me options, like here it's giving me options to like include media. So I can have like the equivalent of an XML generated right away. I can have my media dropped right into Logic. It just makes it super seamless for me to go from one app to another. When there isn't like technically a glue between us two, there is this file format that, you know, you can shift in.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then the last two here are transcript and subtitles, which are different from what I found out when I started working. So for transcript, this is just going to be like a plain text version of your media, right? So like we're not getting any audio, we're not getting any video. We are literally just popping out what's in this script range. So if I go here to transcript, I have the option to select a file format, HTML, RTF, TXT, DocX, whatever you're into, right? This will allow you to open just the text-based thing in whatever platform or application you choose. And then further down, we have some text-specific things. Here, just to kind of like circle back to what we were saying about ignored words, I can here choose to include ignored words or not include them. So I can still, like, without it really messing up my transcript, I can still get like the context of what's said around words that are still included. Cool. I can include composition name, markers, speaker labels, now that we've said all of our wonderful speaker labels, and more. But that's transcript. And then last but not least is subtitles. So subtitles are definitely different than transcript now that I know that. But these would be, so like subtitles would be used for when you're uploading to socials. And let's take like a YouTube, for instance, right? If I publish this to YouTube, by default, YouTube is going to auto-generate like a caption based on my video, right? But just frankly, from what I've used, it is not super accurate. So I have been editing in Descript, and I have this perfect, corrected by me, and I know is 100% solid transcript. What I can do is I can export an SRT file or a sub-rip titles file, and that will allow me to go onto my YouTube channel, select my video, and then I can like override automatic subtitles. So like if you're posting to like Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, right? They're all going to have these automatic subtitles created, which is sick, but they're not hella accurate. So I can use this option to just take control of my content and make sure that it's like correct, and I have everything like as I've corrected it. If I spend time already, you know, editing this script, like I want to make sure it is, you know, true to the work I put in. So I can use subtitle export to grab a file, and then from there override whatever maybe was automatically generated on another site. Anything I missed on there?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, one thing, I think you maybe already said this, but like talked about how well we play with those other tools, that like it's a non-destructive, we're a non-destructive editor. So like even if you export out to one of those other tools, you can still like bring back media that you like deleted in Descript and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, cool. Even just seeing that in practice, like that's quite literally like the ignore thing, right? Like I can play back audio and have it not be there, but visually see it. With most editors, but most importantly with Descript, you want this to be non-destructive so I can easily bring things back and forth. If I had a destructive editor, I wouldn't be able to use this slip tool. Like it wouldn't even be an option, because even though we're only like seeing one section of his audio, this is just like referencing a master file that we store somewhere else. So even though I've like removed 1 or 2 or 3 words, they're not gone. They're just hidden, right? Delete is like a word to make it easy to conceptualize. But again, like you're not really trashing anything. You're just not referencing it for that section of video or audio.
Totally. Cool. Cool. And then one more time, Marcelo, just want to grab this question for us. Could you just explain the difference between a transcript versus subtitles? Yeah. So your transcript is just like text, right? So my transcript is what I'm going to use. Like if I'm writing a movie, if I'm just needing to see like the visual, like the visualization of what is said, I just want, you know, like the transcript, right? Yeah.
that's my transcript export. I just want to document, like, instead of watching this video, I want to read a book, right?
Yeah.
So I have transcript as an option. Subtitles are different because when you download a SRT or a VTT file, included in that is a lot of additional information that is used to relate the section of text to the time that it's played back. So if you export a transcript, you're just going to see like Marilyn said this word, Petra said this word. That's the end, versus subtitles where it's going to be like, hey, from 00 to 0 minutes and 1 second, this word is said. From 1 second to 2 seconds, this word is said. So it's like a lot more in depth, but it is because it's meant to be used, not to be read like a doc, but to be ingested by like a system to align video and audio with that text. If that makes sense. I feel like that does, but yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Hype. Yeah, no doubt.
Cool. Amazing. Okay. We are just about at time here. We covered a ton of ground. Marcelo, thank you so much for this amazing tour de Descript. This was awesome.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I like really do love this tool, and it's always sick to just be like, you know, being in support, I get to see a lot of bugs, but it's cool to kind of zoom out and be like, hey, this tool is great. Here's an overview. Here's how it can enable you to create. I think that's like the coolest thing is like we have such a good tool to get people to start creating from nothing or from something, right? Like it's really an enabler of all tools, but yeah.
Totally hear that. Yeah. So if someone is watching in that audience right now and they're just getting started after watching this 101, of course, what do you think like best next steps are for continuing to learn Descript?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing to do is maybe go on our YouTube channel and look at some of our past events. We have events specifically for like how Descript can be used for teams, like deep dives on templates, Overdub 101, right? So now that we've looked at the big picture, now you can go to our YouTube channel and see a replay of a past webinar where we've gone into a specific feature. Also, our help center at help.descript.com is a humongous resource. And not only is it like an instruction manual, but it's like a use case guide, right? So we have articles that are like, click this button and this feature is enabled, versus like, hey, here's an example of someone that wants to take a video and recreate everything from scratch, right? Like it's giving use cases, but also instruction manual vibes. And you can get to that from help.descript.com, or on the top right of the Descript app, there's like a little question mark. You click that and there's a help center option at the very first. But I would say like our YouTube channel and the how-to section specifically of our help center is huge for people that are just getting in.
100%. I still go to the help center all the time. It's just like my little resource that makes everything make more sense. So totally recommend it. Amazing. Thank you all so much for being here. As a reminder, we've got a promo code for you if you're free or new on the free plan, or you're new here, live 30 at checkout. The link is in the chat. I'll send it in the YouTube as well, so they get it. But yeah, this has just been such a blast. We hope you join our Discord. If you want more of Marcelo, office hours are every Wednesday at 1 p.m. PT. And also just more of our support team in general. We've got some really helpful folks in there. And speaking of helpful, thank you so much to Zach, our support hero in the Ask a Question section. And yeah, last thing I'll say is next week is season 5. It's here. If you're new here, at Descript, we do these sort of seasonal events where we share really big updates with our community. And next week's on Tuesday it's going to be a big one, a really big one for podcasters specifically. So I'm going to throw that link in the chat too. And we would love to see you there.
Yeah. And anyone that hasn't already joined the Discord, definitely check out the Discord. There's an events channel that shows all of these events, whether they're webinars, season announcements, office hours with me, whatever it may be. So the Discord is a really good place, not only to like talk with the community and see how people are using the tool, but stay up to date on like, Marcelo and Christiane are going to be live again soon. But yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Stay in touch with us. And we would love to see you at more events. We've got a poll running too. Let us know how this was for you, how helpful you found this. And yeah, Marcelo, thank you again. And we'll see you all at a future event.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Cool. See you later. All right. Looks like, did it stop? Oh, there it is.